What we've got here is failure to communicate.
Look, up in the sky, it's a bird.
Football is a 20th century technological struggle.
I've eaten a river of liver and an ocean of fish.
I would not object to
the hanger curveball, high fiber, good scotch.
Just a bit outside.
WGAE and AM 620 when I was just a young lad. This man is
you were a young
our next guest.
You are a young lad.
When I was a very young
Very young.
Like 10.
Like snot-nosed young.
Our next guest used to come over and he would bring, you know those little mini football helmets that you can get and you put 25 cents in?
Like those.
Those were my favorite. And he would bring them over and I would collect them. And I used to have to line them up throughout the years. And he also used to bring you mail very late when you were working at the post office. He'd bring extremely late to you and you didn't love it. So joining us now on the DAE hotline, the author of The Stigma of Sports in Florida, Kevin Benjamin. Kevin, what's up, man?
Hey, nice to be on with you guys. You guys doing a great job. I'm really, really proud of both of you for working really hard to get where you're at today. Great job.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. Let me ask you this. The book that you wrote, it's The Stigma of Sports in Florida. Overall, let me ask you this.
On Amazon.
In your opinion, why is there a stigma about sports in Florida?
Well, I mean, if you look at any of the sports media outside of the state of Florida, they're always looking for something to bash us. And I got so sick and tired of it that I wanted to create a book about everything that everybody hates or, as we Floridians like, about our sports in Florida. But everybody outside of Florida really doesn't like. Perfect example, the 72 Dolphins. You know, they're the best team ever, but, you know, most people outside of Florida really don't appreciate that great feat that they did. So, just an example.
Yeah, and in your book, you actually give, you know, who are the biggest haters.
I like that.
Situation,
I like that, yeah.
The Patriots would be the biggest haters because the Patriots came just shy of having perfection.
Right.
The matching would have matched the Dolphins, except it would have had more games in the season with 16 regular season games. So,
well, now they hate the Bucs too.
Well, yeah, now the Patriots hate the Bucs, of course. But so yeah, as far as when you were doing your research for this, who do you think, or what aspect of Florida sports do you think, for an outsider of the state of Florida, is the most hated?
I think that the Marlins winning in '97, and then again in 2003.
Really?
Before the Cubs, before the White Sox, and before the Red Sox had won in 80+ years. Just the fact that, you know, they beat the Indians in '97 in Game 7 at home. I was at that game. But, you know, I think the 72 Dolphins and the Miami Hurricanes, they changed the face of college football for the better for the Floridians, but for the worse for states like Pennsylvania, Texas, Ohio. Excuse me. So, you know, unless you are a Gator fan, you do not like Steve Spurrier. Unless you are a Seminoles fan, you do not like Bobby Bowden. And unless you're a Canes fan, you know, you really don't like Warren Sapp. And, you know, obviously he played for the Bucs, so we like him as Bucs fans too. But everybody else, there's some heroes like Spurrier in our book, like Tebow in our book, like Deion Sanders, to me, is one of my heroes. But Warren Sapp obviously is not one of my heroes, but I wrote about him as well. I love Deion. Deion was the best in college.
Oh, he's unbelievable, and his personality is just hilarious. Let me ask you this. Do Canadians still hate Florida hockey? Haven't the Lightning done a lot to kind of earn people's respect?
I think they have, but I think the big thing that hurt after the Bolts won the Stanley Cup was the year off for the league. We didn't have a chance to bask in that glow, which is kind of upsetting. Just the fact that there's hockey in Florida is like an oxymoron, like jumbo shrimp. I grew up in Florida. I have never put it on an ice skate in my life, so it's kind of cool to, be able to see, when Tampa Bay won against Calgary, it was like the end of the world in Canada. And, I actually couldn't believe that a team from Florida won the Stanley Cup. Of all the championships and there's not many, that the state of Florida have won, I think that's the most shocking. Wouldn't you agree? Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Potentially.
I
was trying to wonder.
Go ahead.
Continue. Sorry, Kevin. No, go ahead, Kevin.
Well, I think that the Hurricanes upsetting Nebraska in the Orange Bowl back in '83 or whatever was a huge just game changer for the state of Florida as far as college football recruiting. You had this untapped reservoir of high school talent that really nobody knew about. And it wasn't until Schnellenberger and the Canes won in '83. Bowden was slowly building that reputation of he was picking the good kids out of Florida. But if you were a good kid, best kid, blue chipper out of Florida in the late 70s, you weren't going to any of the Florida schools. You were going to Ohio State and Penn State. I have a friend of mine that kicked for Penn State in '82 when they won. I think '82 when they won the national championship. And he was a kicker from Coral Springs. And he got offers from everywhere. And obviously Florida State, and Miami, but he wanted to go to where the schools were really good, already established, the Penn States, the Ohio States, the Nebraskas at the time. But I think that one goal line stance at the end of the game at the Orange Bowl, Tom Osborne, the Nebraska coach, going for two just to make a point. All he had to do was kick the extra point. They would have won the national championship, but he decided to go for two, and Miami batted down the pass, and the game was over. And I remember I was 15 years old. I was sitting in the Orange Bowl. I think it was a Tuesday night. I had to work at Mickey D's at 6 a.m. I didn't get back home until 3 o'clock in the morning. My mom made me go to work. I remember sitting there flipping burgers and stuff at 10:30. Just, ugh. But, it was such a great time to be a Canes fan growing up, going to the Orange Bowl, as well as going to Dolphins games when I was a kid, watching Dan Marino. And before Marino, it was I came and moved to Florida at the end of the 3 Super Bowl reign in the summer of '74. Moved to Miami Beach, and I didn't know about anything except Johnny Unitas and the Baltimore Colts, because I was from Baltimore and the Colts had practiced down the street, and my dad used to take me to watch Johnny U in practice, and I think I went to 1 or 2 Colts games. But it wasn't until when I moved to Miami when I got really into going to Dolphins games. And Flipper was at the Dolphins games. It was so awesome to see the porpoise there. It was, Garrow would kick.
I'm more of a Flipper Anderson guy.
Flipper Anderson was good too, yeah. The Rams.
Kevin Benjamin joining us right now. The book is called The Stigma of Sports in Florida. Yeah, it's hard for me to comment on those controversial moments because, the Schnellenberger days, the Jimmy Johnson days,
right.
I wasn't alive for that. So I look back.
Rub it in.
I'll tell you, no, it's not that. I look to, and that's why I love the 30 for 30s that ESPN does, because the one on Miami on the U, I learn a lot about Schnellenberger that I wouldn't have learned, the insight into it. So as far as, I was trying to rack my brain as to what, controversy you've seen as far as big games, big moments in Florida, biggest moments, and just not being alive for those moments, to read them in this book brings it to light a little bit. What other stories? I mean, Warren Sapp. You mentioned Warren Sapp. There's a chapter dedicated to him. He's a lovable but hateable guy. I even say there's some Bucs fans that are like, listen, the guy's been a lot of them.
Right, and when he played, it was his interview was the only interview that you wanted to get. And if you didn't interview him on Tuesday on Media Day, they would have the media come at the University of Tampa, and they would have Media Day, the Tuesday before games. And I was coming up from Sarasota, one-man banding it, had to do news. I'd get there, while the players were leaving. And Warren would always stop for me and do the one-on-one interview with me. And he was always cool to me, but, he did some things. If you read in the book, if you asked him a stupid question, he had a dip of Copenhagen, he'd probably spit on your shoes just to make a statement. I wrote about that in the book.
Long cut? Was it long cut?
No, it was Copenhagen, the can dip. He would, well, I don't want to give too much of it away, but one time after, I think, a Panthers game, he spit at one of the female reporters' shoes, and she freaked out and ran out of the locker room. And honestly, all of us local media was kind of waiting for her to ask the stupid question, because back then there wasn't really too many female reporters that knew their stuff. And so there was, and they do now, and I'm not knocking any of them in the last 20 years, but this is, 20 years ago. A lot of women were just coming up then, and they would just put pretty faces on set just to appease everybody. But that's not the way it is now. I know a lot of female reporters that, are awesome. So that doesn't make a difference. If there's any girls out there that want to be reporters, more power to you. You got a better chance of being a sports reporter than the guys.
Wow, good message.
Yeah, but
let me ask you this, Kevin. In your book, you have listed as primary haters of Tim Tebow basically everyone rooting for the teams in which Tebow has never played for. So I'm like, do you really think that's true? Because
yes.
I'll say this: I've never rooted for any of the teams that Tim Tebow has played for. I don't hate Tim Tebow. I don't think he's a great NFL type quarterback.
No, he wasn't.
Do you think that many people?
I think that they do hate him. I think that the kneeling kind of put a bad taste into people's mouth to begin with, and the amount of,
which is ridiculous.
It is.
Really
It is, because every athlete that's religious praise, and it's just that he made such a big deal about, he was such an awesome college player that it just, I didn't see it translate. I would have liked him. And I wrote this in the book. It would have been smart for Jacksonville to have drafted him to sell tickets. They really were not good back then.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have hurt. He's from the Jacksonville area. He played high school, and he went to UF in Gainesville. So, I mean, boom, 10,000 season tickets within two weeks. I'm just telling you, that's how many season tickets would have been sold. I couldn't understand, and on a 180 kind of, I think that the Bucks kind of drafted Jameis thinking, oh man, Jax could have had Tim Tebow. We're going to get Jameis and get all the Florida State fans, which they did, because I'm on Facebook Buccaneers groups, and all the Jameis people are from Florida State that are very upset that he's not going to be with the Bucks anymore. I didn't think the Bucks should have drafted him at all because of his background as a person. But that's a whole different story, and now we move on to Tom Brady. And you guys know this. Now that Tom Brady, everybody outside is like, Tampa Bay? He's going to friggin' Tampa Bay? So that's a whole nother chapter in my book, but I'm going to wait to write that until midway through the season when, hopefully the Bucks are undefeated and on their way to the playoffs. But I'm shocked. Are you guys kind of shocked that he's here? Because I'm shocked. And I've been in sports for 30 years.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been a football fan for... I was telling all my friends, you guys are smoking too much thinking he's coming here. There's just no way he's coming here. But I'm glad he's coming here.
Both said that. There's no way he's leaving the Patriots. We thought there was absolutely no
I
chance.
thought you were going to say we both smoke too much. I was like,
I look at a guy like, and you mentioned Jameis, and I'll personally, and everyone has their own opinion, I'll personally defend Jameis' character until the end, no matter where he goes. I love the kid, love the family, so I always root for Jameis.
Oh, I'm rooting for him. It's, being a Buccaneer.
You're a Gator, too. You're a University of Florida grad.
Yeah, but see, I grew up...
I know you mentioned you love Dion. But.
Right, okay, so here's the deal. I grew up in Miami Beach and Coral Springs going to Canes and Dolphins games. I went to the University of Florida, where I covered the Buccaneers along with the Gators, 88, 89, and 90. And then I graduated in May of 91, got a job in Dothan, Alabama at CBS doing sports, covered the Falcons for 3 years, Alabama, Auburn, and Florida State, depending on who was home on a Saturday. I'd usually go down to Florida State, or because we were the CBS affiliate for the Panhandle, or I'd go to Auburn, or Alabama games were really far, but if it was the Iron Bowl or something like that, then I would go. And it's funny because I grew up and then my covering and being a fan of Canes, Gators, Seminoles, you know what I mean, is there's a lot there in my background, and I'm a fan. As you know this, Aaron, and you probably still got that Keyshawn Johnson autograph that I got you guys, unless your dad put it in a box somewhere.
We got it. We've got it.
Okay, so
Surprised it's not in the Goon Squad studio.
I gotta get it up here. It's a good idea.
yeah, you should get that. That was but back then, and I was explaining this to you on the phone a little bit. There wasn't a lot of people talking about sports. But, like there is now with Facebook, and everybody has a podcast, and everybody can, write and explain and bitch about anything that they want these days, So sports radio, you guys are taken to a level that is more important. When I hear you guys talk, because you guys are on the radio and you have your own show, okay, and I see a lot of guys in these Buccaneers groups on Facebook having their own podcasts, which I have my own podcast, but I'm not expecting,
Yeah, I do them all the time.
Right. So, but it's funny to hear the fan, the person that has no idea what a locker room is like, or no idea how, what's involved in actually covering a team, to hear them, complain about certain things. Like, I love the uniforms, but, I like the orange ones too. I'm kind of bummed that they're not bringing back the orange, but I understand. Vinny Testaverde was colorblind, had trouble finding his receivers when they had the creamsicle. So, but
what does that have to do with the fans? I mean, they don't have to be in the locker room to enjoy a jersey. I disagree with that one.
Right. Well, I mean, I would just wait and see if there's even a football season before I'm gonna knock down a bunch of money for a jersey.
Oh, don't do that.
Oh,
Don't do
come
that.
on. The interview was going
Kevin.
well. We were doing well.
All right.
No.
Before we let you go, are you still doing a lot of business at the post office?
No, I don't. I stopped. It kind of has. eBay turned into a garage sale about 5 years ago with sports memorabilia and especially baseball cards. And so I just have my collection, mostly Baltimore Orioles stuff, some Bucks autographs I keep. But, I spent a lot of time writing my book at the end of last year to get it published before Christmas and the holidays. So it's on Amazon, and you can download for your Kindle or, buy the paperback. And if you guys want an autographed copy, text these guys. They'll get in touch with me, and we can figure something out. And, so, one of the main things about the book is that, we're very ethnocentric in the United States. And that means that we don't really think that anything exists outside the United States. And in Florida...
It really doesn't.
Right. And in Florida, you really, if you're from here and you're a Gator fan, you really don't hate the Seminoles. You appreciate them. You're a Canes fan. If you're a Bucks fan, you appreciate what the Dolphins did, and vice versa. So it's like, we're all on the same boat, because the national media and everybody outside of, Florida really just dislikes everything that has, I want to just leave you guys with this. Steve Spurrier is one of my favorite people. I was the sports anchor at the college TV station at UF in the fall of '90, his first year. The Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of 1990, before his first game, the Gainesville murders took place. Two kids, Tuesday, one on Wednesday, two on Thursday. And his first game is on Saturday at home. And so it was up to him whether to play the game. And he decided to play the game for morale, and it was a very good decision. It wasn't selfish. It was community, getting together. It was a very difficult time for fans and the community in Gainesville. And I actually did a story.
Honestly, Kevin, something that we're gonna need to get together right now. I think it's something that we can relate to in the future.
Yeah.
When sports does get going again right now, we can really relate to that, because we're gonna all get together, band together,
right,
and really enjoy having something that I think a lot of us took for granted.
Because
Right.
Aaron always says, we're in this together. All right, really quickly, I got to ask you this before we let you go. When you come into the post office really late before, like right before closing time.
Well, I knew you were going to be there. Yeah.
Did you ever think? did you ever think like this guy's a real dick? Sorry, Bob.
And you can say he was.
Yeah, please tell me the truth.
No, because you had the OC jersey on, and I think I thought it was somebody else. I think the first time I saw you wearing your OC Giants jersey, I think I said, "Oh, you must be like a Strahan fan or something like that." And you turned around and you're like, "OC, bud, OC," and so we kind of hit it off. And I wouldn't have come in so late, but I knew you were there and you would help me out, and I appreciate that. So.
It's funny because
No, but hey, but
the first thing you bring up is the OC jersey.
but Pat, remember this, okay? I think you were going to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting at the time, or what were you doing?
No, I went when I was still up in Massachusetts.
Okay.
I was working part time, and I was working part time at a little rinky-dink station down the street when I worked at.
Okay, and I remember you're like, I'm going to be on the air one day. I'm like, stick it out. It's a rough road, but once you get there, it's going to be great. And now it is, isn't it?
You were like, I don't know about Tampa, bud. You might want to look for a small.
Well, no. You know, the line is you start in a small town and move your way up. You know, work your way up. But if you can,
True.
you know, your aspirations. You know, not everybody can start in. I started in Dothan, Alabama, then worked at ABC in Sarasota, and even ABC in Sarasota was a second job for people. You know what I mean? And you know
I
what?
almost took a job in Birmingham, Alabama, like 6 years ago, after working in Tampa for like 6 months or a year, and I didn't get the job. And I always imagined what my life would have been like. Because everyone told me the same advice: go take a job in a small market. Go take a job in a small market. So I interviewed for a job in Birmingham, didn't get it. Best thing that ever happened to me in my life was not getting that job.
Who knows? I'd be producing for some jerk right now
Right.
instead of like co-hosting with you instead. I'm glad you're here, man.
Right.
Well, listen, Kevin, it's been a lot of fun today. Like busting your balls.
All right, just let me just say one more time. It's called The Stigma of Sports in Florida.
Yeah.
And if you're a fan of any of the teams in Florida, you're going to love it. There's something about everything, you know, it doesn't matter who you like. Okay? And
Fun
it's
read. It's an easy read as well. Where can they get it again, Kevin?
it's on Amazon, The Stigma of Sports in Florida. You can download the version for your Kindle. You can read it on your phone. And you can buy a paperback as well. It's cheap, you know, $13 for the paperback, $6.99 for the downloaded version, and it's on Amazon. And I appreciate you guys having me on.
Hey, anytime, man. Good to talk to you.
Good to
All right.
catch up, Kev.
See you.
Kevin Benjamin right there.